Where were you when you first heard the news about Diana?
Well, I remember it distinctly, and I'm sure most of the people in the audience here of a certain age will remember it distinctly. I was in bed in my flat in Glasgow. I was working as a news reporter at the time, and a friend of mine who was in the newsroom phoned me very early in the morning. And well, at that time she had died because there was a period that they weren't sure, wasn't it? Yeah. But she said conclusively that she had died. And I remember, and this was so out of character for me, I was totally shocked and I burst into tears. And I would never have predicted that I would have done that because, you know, it wasn't me, I was a journalist, I'd stood at Lockerbie, you know, I'd seen all these things.
You didn't react as a journalist, you reacted as a human.
And I was really, really devastated and didn't know why I was devastated, to be honest. And funnily enough, a wedding a week later, there was a young guy there who was telling jokes, sadly, very inappropriate jokes, which did go around in the aftermath. And I just remember being furious at this guy, just really furious. And usually I would let something like that go. But, you know, I did have a word with him and I just said, you know, it's just distasteful, inappropriate. I was angry at him for joking. So, but why it affected me like that, I still don't know. I still don't know.
I think because everybody felt that they knew her. Maybe,
Yeah.
And also
Similar
our age.
She was kind of grown up with
She
her.
was our age, so from her being what 18, 19 years old, she'd been very much kind of.
Well, you both were journalists at the time. You were royal correspondent.
Well, no, I
Diana's
had been
formative years.
Yeah, I was royal correspondent, and so I met her quite a few times. But actually, funnily enough, on the night she died, I was at a wedding of an active royal correspondent. And, you know, the thing about the royal pack, as we were called, the rat pack, we all knew each other because we spent weeks hanging out together at various, you know, on various royal tours and whatever. So we were all quite good mates. So I was at the wedding of a royal correspondent and all the royal correspondents were there. And so, you know, we'd all had quite a lot to drink. We were out in the middle of Kent in a marquee, all staying the night down there. And it was the days of pagers because nobody had mobile phones then. And someone's pager went off and you had to ring the office. And he came back to and he said, Diana's had a car crash. And I think the first thing he said was she'd broken her collarbone. Well, that in itself was a massive story, and it was enough to stop this wedding. I mean, literally, because all the royal correspondents were going to get back to London.
But also, some of these guys will have had relationships with her, you know, because it's the official pack.
For them, at that point, broken collarbone, it was just like, this is a story. So, you know, we all managed to get the one taxi driver, I think, that was operating at that point in deepest, darkest Kent. We all got back to London. Then it started to come in that she'd actually died, and I remember being in the Sun. We had conference at, I think it was 5 in the morning. And, you know, you sit in conference every day with these hard-nosed hacks. And I remember the Sun editor at the time had tears in his eyes. And we were just all sitting there like that, round the conference table, just going, this is the biggest story ever, practically. And we were all just in deep shock. Nobody could believe it.
Do you remember at what point that people started to come out on the streets and lay flowers and be there? Do you remember how
Quite
that happened?
quickly, yeah. I mean, literally.
Yeah.
Well, you did almost immediately.
The day after, I was in bed and Mark came into the bedroom and he was crying. I said, what's the matter? What's the matter? He said, you won't believe what's happened. And I got up and watched the television with him and there unfolded the story. It was like I couldn't... And all I kept thinking about was her 2 boys. Where are they? How did they find out? Who had to break the news?
It was a bit like a Mexican wave, wasn't it? It just sort of built up.
Laid a wreath, Hillary Clinton, Nelson Mandela, you know, people just felt the need to sort of publicly...
It was interesting because I'd flown to Mallorca on holiday with a girlfriend and it was a really cheap package holiday. So we'd flown overnight, got on a coach, been dropped to all the different, you know, hotels. We got off on ours, crashed out asleep, got up the next day and something had obviously happened. There was a very sombre mood in the hotel, and this is how long ago it was. There was only one TV. There was none in the rooms. It was in the lobby, and everyone was standing around, crying and looking shocked. And we found out then. For us, it felt so surreal because we were in another country. We were there long enough that we stayed for the funeral, and watching the funeral on foreign television was, again, there's people swimming in the pool outside and we're sitting inside crying, watching it. As soon as we flew back the next day after the funeral, I went and took some flowers to Kensington Palace. And what I remember then was the queue snaking all the way down and how quiet it was. And all you could smell was the sweet smell of fresh and dying flowers in the air.